How often would he beat you?
Too much.
Would he only use a belt?
Popstar Michael Jackson's childhood was not balanced and easy. It moves under structure, repetition, and demand, where discipline often replaces softness and responsibility arrives earlier than understanding. What looks like success from the outside is, on closer inspection, built through tension between expectation as father and emotion as son, between public admiration and private experience. The voice that changed everything. History is often altered by moments that appear insignificant when they first occur. The course of Michael Jackson's future was profoundly influenced by an ordinary moment that unfolded within the family home. While a bed was being made and a song was being sung casually, his voice was overheard by his mother, Katherine Jackson, who immediately recognized unusual potential. Encouragement was then given for Joe Jackson to listen, although the suggestion was not initially embraced. At that time, Jermaine had already been established as the group's lead vocalist, while Michael's role remained considerably smaller. Nevertheless, continued insistence eventually brought attention to his abilities. Following a school talent show performance of Climb Every Mountain in 1965, his potential was more fully acknowledged, and a gradual restructuring of the group began. Leadership responsibilities were increasingly shifted, and Michael was elevated to a more prominent position alongside Jermaine. From that point forward, the direction of the group was significantly transformed. Despite the extraordinary career that followed, the stage itself was remembered as a place of comfort rather than anxiety. Before we move on, take a look at this shocking image. It shows a perfectly timed reaction moment between two people, what looks like Michael Jackson and Jesse Jackson. Michael makes a dramatic hand gesture, while Jesse appears to lean back with his hands raised, creating the illusion of a heated exchange. The bold caption made the image quite surprising as to what really happened during a live show. We don't know much about the incident other than the image, and there are only online stories around it. What do you think of this hilarious image? Let us know in the comments. Legacy born from discipline. Every legacy is shaped by choices, yet the methods used to create success often become as debated as the success itself. Joe Jackson's life began within modest circumstances in Arkansas, where instability and limited opportunities helped shape his early experiences. After relocating to Indiana, employment was secured in a steel mill, and daily life became defined largely by hard work and responsibility. Following his marriage to Catherine Screws in 1949, a large family was established, eventually including 10 children, although tragedy was experienced when Brandon Jackson passed away shortly after birth. Among the surviving children were Michael and Janet Jackson, whose future achievements would bring international recognition to the family name. During the early 1960s, a musical group was organized using several of his sons, and a strict routine of rehearsals and discipline was introduced. Through continuous training and persistent effort, that group evolved into the Jackson 5, whose success transformed them into one of Motown's most celebrated acts. Landmark recordings such as I Want You Back and ABC helped secure worldwide fame. Yet criticism of Joe's methods persisted, leaving his legacy divided between success and controversy. From backyard to global fame. Behind every celebrated success story, years of preparation are often hidden beneath memories that appear simple on the surface. Through an old interview, the early rise of the Jackson family was recalled from the perspective of the man who guided much of their journey. Small performances in Chicago nightclubs and local venues were described as the starting point, while frequent travel between Gary and Chicago was undertaken despite difficult weather and limited resources. Gradually, larger opportunities were secured, and stages of increasing significance were reached, including appearances at the Apollo Theater. Throughout the discussion, a belief was expressed that success required more than talent alone. Constant rehearsals, strict discipline, and persistent effort were presented as essential elements of progress. The narrative later shifted toward a family gathering at an Inglewood residence, where tables had been arranged, food had been prepared, and relatives had assembled. Various moments of family life were highlighted, including Randy's recovery from a kung fu injury, Tito's presence with his wife and child, and the youngest family members being welcomed into the celebration. Growing up too soon. When adulthood arrives before childhood is complete, success can be achieved while something equally important is quietly surrendered. Long before adulthood was naturally reached, childhood was increasingly replaced by professional responsibility. While ordinary children were preparing for school and enjoying predictable routines, late-night performances, crowded venues, and demanding schedules were already becoming a regular part of daily life. Promotional appearances, television productions, travel commitments, and public obligations gradually occupied nearly every available moment. Although public schooling had initially been attended in Gary, Indiana, growing fame eventually required a transition to private tutors and specialized educational arrangements, through which traditional social experiences became severely limited. As regular interactions with peers decreased, Michael's brothers became his primary companions. The spontaneous development that usually accompanies childhood was largely exchanged for the expectations of a professional career. Observers frequently remarked that an unusually mature intellect seemed to exist within a very young individual, a description that was often presented as praise. Yet such observations also reflected how different his circumstances had become. Adult responsibilities were shouldered while childhood slipped away. The playground across the street. Sometimes the greatest distance in childhood is not measured in miles, but in the space between what can be seen and what can never be reached. A powerful contrast was experienced throughout Michael Jackson's early years, during which professional obligations repeatedly stood between him and the ordinary joys of childhood. While extensive recording sessions were being conducted inside Motown's Hitsville, USA studio in Detroit, and later within major recording facilities in Los Angeles, a neighborhood park remained visible just beyond the windows. The sounds of baseball games, football matches, and carefree laughter were frequently carried indoors, where they served as constant reminders of a different life unfolding nearby. During seasons when most children were exploring their surroundings and forming friendships, days were instead being consumed by vocal sessions, rehearsals, and tightly controlled schedules. Attention was often drawn toward the activity outside rather than toward the work that filled each day. Decades later, those memories continued to be described with sadness. There was a persistent wish to step outside and join the life being watched from afar, but work always overruled that possibility. The vacation that never existed. A life filled with extraordinary opportunities can still leave behind a longing for simple moments that were never fully experienced. As professional commitments continued to multiply, genuine free time became increasingly unfamiliar. Interviews followed recording sessions, television appearances followed interviews, and nearly every remaining moment was occupied by rehearsals, tours, promotional events, or public obligations. One responsibility seemed to lead directly into another, leaving little opportunity for rest or personal enjoyment. When the idea of an ideal vacation was later discussed, uncertainty was expressed, largely because meaningful breaks from work had been experienced so rarely. Only a single true vacation was remembered, despite many years spent in the public eye.
Are you excited to be back with your brothers?
The relentless pace of life occasionally became emotionally overwhelming, particularly during childhood. One memory involved preparations for a Jackson 5 tour of South America, during which travel plans had already been finalized and departure was imminent. Yet somewhere within the house, a young boy was reportedly hiding and crying. No desire existed to travel or perform at that moment. Instead, a simple wish was being held to remain at home and play. The cost of being the golden child? What appears to be privilege from the outside can sometimes become a burden that quietly separates a child from those closest to him. Being identified as the favored child within the family created consequences that extended far beyond recognition. Rather than strengthening relationships with his brothers, that distinction gradually contributed to feelings of isolation that were experienced within the home itself. While special attention was being directed toward Michael, a growing sense of separation was also being created behind the scenes. Expectations continued to increase, and a level of pressure emerged that could not easily be understood or managed by someone so young. Success became associated with security, while failure appeared capable of bringing anger and disappointment. As a result, perfection was increasingly pursued not only for achievement but also for protection. Over time, a lasting pattern of emotional isolation was established. At the same time, matters involving contracts, finances, and professional obligations entered daily life long before emotional maturity had fully developed. Childhood was steadily replaced by adult pressures, and success became the main measure of worth. Fear behind perfection. What is often remembered as extraordinary talent can sometimes be traced back to a childhood shaped not by freedom, but by expectations that left little room for mistakes. During a candid interview conducted in 2003, reflections were offered on a childhood that had been heavily influenced by strict discipline within the Jackson household. While remarkable success was being witnessed by audiences across the world, a far different experience was being lived behind rehearsals, recording sessions, and family routines. Under the supervision of Joe Jackson's, practice sessions were approached with intense seriousness, and errors were not merely corrected but were often associated with fear and anxiety. Perfection was expected at every stage, and the avoidance of punishment gradually became intertwined with performance itself. Michael was frequently presented as the example against which his brothers were measured, causing additional strain within the family dynamic. The repeated instruction to perform like Michael was echoed throughout rehearsals, creating pressure for everyone involved. Although it was believed that Marlon endured the harshest treatment, physical punishment was also acknowledged personally. Painful memories surfaced, including moments of Katherine Jackson pleading for the beatings to stop. The beatings behind closed doors. Behind achievements that were celebrated publicly, memories were being formed privately that would remain far more difficult to escape. While success was being applauded by audiences around the world, a far different atmosphere was reportedly being experienced within the family home. Physical punishment was described as a recurring element of childhood, particularly during moments when expectations were not fulfilled or tempers had escalated. In later reflections, Michael recalled an environment in which fear frequently shaped daily life, transforming home into a place associated with tension rather than comfort. Whenever confrontation appeared likely, efforts were sometimes made to avoid it. Different rooms were sought, hiding places were discovered, and escape attempts were repeatedly undertaken in hopes that punishment might be avoided. Those efforts, however, were not always successful. When escape failed, the consequences were remembered as severe and emotionally overwhelming. The experience of running, hiding, and waiting for what might happen next became deeply embedded within memory and remained vivid well into adulthood. As years passed, two contrasting realities continued to exist side by side. When fear became physical, certain childhood experiences do not remain confined to memory because their presence can continue to be carried silently within the body itself. The emotional impact of early experiences was not described as fading over time. Instead, lasting psychological effects were said to have manifested through powerful physical reactions that continued well into adulthood. Although enormous success had been achieved and global admiration had been received, the presence of his father reportedly remained capable of triggering immediate distress. Ordinary family encounters were associated with severe nausea, stomach pain, trembling, and other involuntary responses that appeared beyond conscious control. On several occasions, physical illness was reportedly experienced the moment Joe Jackson entered a room, while fainting was also described as having occurred under intense emotional pressure. No immediate threat was reported during those moments. Rather, reactions appeared to emerge from memories that remained deeply embedded despite the passage of time. Because such responses occurred automatically, they were difficult to manage and equally difficult to explain. Despite confidence on stage before huge crowds, traces of childhood fear still emerged, showing how deeply past experiences stayed embedded in both mind and body. Creativity, discipline, and lost childhood. Art is sometimes shaped most deeply by the experiences that leave the strongest emotional imprint upon a life. The absence of a conventional childhood became closely connected to Michael Jackson's artistic philosophy and creative identity. Throughout later reflections, it was explained that meaningful art should reach beyond age, culture, or background and connect directly with universal human emotion. Great music, in his view, was achieved when vulnerability rather than performance alone was communicated to an audience. Early life had been dominated by rigorous schedules, strict expectations, and carefully controlled environments, circumstances that left many emotional needs unfulfilled. As a result, inspiration was often drawn from performers such as James Brown and Sammy Davis Jr., who whose energy and stage presence provided important creative influences. Performance eventually became more than entertainment. Through music and movement, emotions that could not easily be expressed elsewhere were given an outlet. This commitment to emotional honesty contributed significantly to the enduring impact of his work. Personal hardship also reinforced a broader belief that art possesses the power to heal. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Now back to the next one, The Price of Glory. The achievements that inspire millions are sometimes built upon sacrifices that can never be recovered. Throughout the world, Michael Jackson came to be recognized as a symbol of extraordinary success, admired by millions who embraced his music and celebrated his performances. Behind that public image, however, a different reality was often acknowledged. From an early age, life had been shaped by recording studios, performance stages, cameras, and expectations that rarely subsided. The ordinary experiences through which childhood is usually defined were gradually replaced by professional responsibilities and constant pressure. Despite these losses, his life was not described as entirely tragic. It was believed that many difficult experiences contributed to the person he eventually became and influenced the values he later embraced. The absence of a conventional childhood played a significant role in shaping his concern for children and his commitment to humanitarian causes. Efforts were directed toward protecting young people because the innocence, imagination, and wonder associated with childhood were regarded as deeply important. He believed lost childhood could never be recovered, and that many problems begin when it is cut short too early. The distance behind the word dad. Fame may bring visibility to a family, yet emotional distance can remain hidden behind even the most recognizable names. During an interview that explored self-esteem, family relationships, and personal struggles, Janet Jackson reflected upon experiences that had shaped her emotional development. Deep insecurities regarding appearance and self-worth were described, and the resulting distress was acknowledged as having become severe during certain periods of her life. Those experiences later formed the foundation of her book, True You, through which issues involving identity, confidence, and emotional healing were examined. While discussing her family, Janet also spoke warmly about Michael Jackson, describing him as gentle, loving, intelligent, and emotionally sensitive.
I'd like to ask for my sister, Latoya and Janet, please come up.
In her view, a strong awareness of self had always been carried by him despite the extraordinary pressures that surrounded his life. However, the conversation also revealed more complicated aspects of the family dynamic. Janet explained that her relationship with her father had never developed in a truly conventional manner. Although respect remained present, emotional closeness was not described as a defining feature of that connection. A father's defense. When conflicting versions of the same past are presented, certainty is often replaced by questions that refuse to disappear. During a televised interview, Joe Jackson was confronted with questions regarding the manner in which Michael Jackson had been raised and whether any regret was carried for the methods that had been employed. The premise itself was rejected. According to Joe, discipline had been applied appropriately, structure had been maintained consistently, and his children had been protected from influences that might have led them toward trouble. Allegations of physical and emotional abuse were firmly denied throughout the exchange. At the same time, the use of belts and switches as disciplinary tools was openly acknowledged, although a distinction was drawn between what he described as spanking and what he considered abuse. His actions were defended as necessary measures that kept his children focused and safe during a difficult period in Gary, Indiana. As the discussion progressed, broader historical references were introduced in support of his position. Physical discipline was presented as a long-standing practice within society and as a method still used by many families. Allegations, suspicion, and a father's conviction. Even after a tragedy has occurred, competing explanations are often carried forward by those still searching for answers. Following Michael Jackson's death, questions regarding responsibility, motive, and circumstance continued to generate debate. Within Joe Jackson's account of events, it was suggested that Michael's assets and financial interests were intended to benefit the family, reflecting wishes that he believed had been expressed before his passing. Joe also maintained that Michael had voiced concerns about his personal safety while still alive. According to his recollections, warnings were allegedly shared with Catherine Jackson regarding individuals who might seek control of valuable publishing rights. Although those claims were said to have become known more fully only after Michael's death, similar concerns were also attributed to conversations involving Michael's manager, Dieter Wiesner. In Joe's view, Conrad Murray should not have been regarded as the sole figure responsible for the tragedy. Instead, a broader pattern of exploitation and mistreatment was believed to have existed around Michael during his final years. Responsibility was seen as shared, with broader accountability emphasized, and Conrad Murray was viewed as only one part of a larger situation. Forgiveness without forgetting. Not every painful memory is erased by forgiveness because some lessons remain even after peace has been made. As time passed, earlier feelings of anger gradually evolved into a more reflective understanding of the past. Although painful experiences continued to be remembered, they were eventually viewed through a broader and more complicated perspective. The emotional damage associated with childhood was openly acknowledged, yet complete resentment was not allowed to define the relationship indefinitely. Strong bitterness had once been carried, and feelings of hatred were admitted during certain periods of life. The fear, punishment, and emotional distance that had been experienced left lasting effects that could not simply be dismissed. Nevertheless, additional context was later considered. Reflection upon Joe Jackson's upbringing within the harsh realities of the Jim Crow South contributed to a greater understanding of the environment that had shaped him, although it was not presented as a justification for everything that occurred. Those experiences also influenced the approach Michael later adopted as a parent. Greater affection was expressed, emotional closeness was encouraged, and efforts were made to provide warmth that had often seemed absent earlier in life. Joseph Jackson's story does not end in agreement or approval, it ends in permanence. Long after the arguments faded and the world moved forward, his presence remains tied to a legacy that cannot be separated from either achievement or controversy. To some, an architect of discipline, to others, a source of lasting questions. Yet beyond public debate, there is a quieter reality. A father who believed he was preparing his children for survival in an unforgiving industry and who carried that belief to the end without softening its meaning.